Okay, welcome back to Sable's Grimoire. We are going to start Tick's route officially at this point, where we are trying to help her make magic and make babies. Thank you. I saw that I got another subscriber. That's really cool of you. And if you are watching these videos, you might as well subscribe, just to follow along and whatnot. So yeah, let's keep going. Without further debate, Tix and I agree upon the basics of our upcoming training routine. The specifics are yet to be decided. Even I, the person who made such a proposition, don't know what we're doing, or what we'll be doing. But as long as Tix's enthusiasm doesn't wane, I'm confident that it'll work out. Tix is stronger than I am. She also has better grades than I do, and she has been using magic since she was a child. If she puts in effort required, I have no doubt that she will succeed this time around. Of course, I do still have my own reasons for helping Tix. I meant what I said about wanting to help her, but that doesn't mean I'm completely selfless. Rather, as the one who will be teaching her, I must admit that I'm looking forward to seeing what she is capable of. Teaching others in order to reinforce one's own knowledge, having others put into practice what yourself lack the power to, finding inspiration in their novel ideas. While I won't go so far as to say steal Tix's spells, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't planning to learn from them. Tix and I will learn from one another. We will become study buddies, just as she jokingly suggested. We will be exchanging ideas, coming up with new spells together, and even practicing them together. Whether you label it training, studying, or even bonding, we'll be doing it all. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Tix has some catching up to do. Little as Tix realized that the first hurdle she faces is exactly that which she bemoaned her own kind for falling victim to. Namely, Tix lacks experience in using magic outside of her specialities. For a mage who wishes to get a new spell, that is a fatal flaw. Yeah, because you need to know how to do everything, for the most part. Good old jack of all trades. Okay, the day after agreeing to become Tix's teacher, I awakened feeling more fatigued than usual. The sun has risen, yet I have no energy. Even without seeing the time, I can tell that it's earlier than I'd usually wake up. Why have I woken up so early? And if I'm still tired, what's stopping me from simply going back to sleep? Before I can give either of those questions any serious thought, the answer stares at me in the face. Rise inside, sleepyhead. It's time for another wonderful day. Tix? Why'd you wake me up? What did you just say? I said get your lazy ass out of bed before I smack you. I knew I must have misheard her. So what did she say? I didn't really pay too much attention. Rise inside, sleepyhead. It's another wonderful day. Get your lazy ass out of bed. I dragged myself out of bed while yawning loudly. While it's true that I think of sleep as a waste of time, I'm also well aware of the fact that I need it nonetheless. Waking up after sleeping for even fewer hours than usual is rarely a good way to start the day. Oh well, I'll wake up properly soon enough. I guess I should have a shower, get changed, maybe grab breakfast. Well, are you ready yet? You're still half asleep? Get it together, Sable. Are we doing this or not? Doing what? Duh, what else? Spell creation practice. That's why you woke me up? I'm going back to sleep. Oh no, you don't. You may have only just woken up, but I've been awake for hours. I'm not waiting any longer. You've been awake for that long already? Did you actually go to sleep last night? I did. Of course I did. What do you think? I was too excited to sleep or something? Get real, Sable. Ignoring Tix's half-assed attempt to cover up the truth, I yawned once more and rubbed my eyes. It's great that you're encouraged. You're eager. But do we have to do this right now? Can't we wait until classes have ended for the day? No way, I want to start now. Right now. Impatient girl. Where did all this enthusiasm even come from? Tix was so reluctant yesterday. I spent ages trying to convince her not to leave and to give her spell creation another shot. Is this just what she's like when she's made up her mind, going straight to the extreme and abandoning all hesitation? It certainly seemed that way when she suddenly started talking about mating with me. Alright, fine. Have it your way. We'll start early. Just give me a chance to bathe and eat first. No problem. We can start revising while you're doing that. Revising while I shower? Oh, the door, Sable. We don't need to be in the same room to talk to one another. Unless, of course, you've changed your mind about that other thing I'd like to your help with. I don't think so. Then hurry up and bathe before I get impatient and join you. I grab a change of clothes and breathe a lengthy sigh. The sun has barely risen, and I'm already exhausted. Just what have I gotten myself into? For somehow managing to convince Tix to wait until after I've eaten breakfast, I hurried to the cafeteria to take a seat. Without bothering to order anything, I sit straight down, close my eyes, and rest my forehead on the table. Why does this feel so good? I hate sleep, I really do, but my poor body needs to rest. Showering helped me to wake up, but it wasn't enough to motivate me. Even now, I feel like going back to bed, not because I'm tired, but simply due to my own stubbornness. The promises which spewed out of my mouth so easily yesterday must now be fulfilled. Thinking that I can't help but sigh. Sable. Hey, it is Sable, buddy. You're actually here. Oh, just kill me now. My head starts to throb as the loud voice of my excitable friend Draken echoes throughout the cafeteria. Morning, Draken. Good morning, Sable. What brings you here to the cafeteria so early in the morning? I'm usually the only one here at this time of day. Somehow that doesn't surprise me. I wouldn't normally visit the cafeteria for another hour or two, but unfortunately my schedule has been moved up this morning. Your schedule? What, do you have something important planned? You could say that. Well, then you better start the day with a big meal. What are you getting? Have you placed your order yet? No, not yet. Right now I just want to relax a little while longer. Come to the cafeteria to relax? Well, whatever makes you happy. I'm going to go order something. I'll be right back. With her usual gusto, Draken swoops in, celebrates my presence, then disappears a moment later. How can she be so energetic at this hour of the morning is beyond me. Oh well, maybe her disposition is contagious. I wouldn't mind having some of Draken's excitement and energy rub off onto me. Of all people I could have met here, I'm glad it was Draken. Not that I would expect anyone else to be awake this early in the morning. I chuckle to myself as I think about how glad I am that I encountered Draken instead of Ray. Ugh. I can just imagine her smug face after hearing that I made up with Tix. When Ray finds out, she'll definitely going to take credit for it and say it's all thanks to her lessons. Hey now, that's more like it. Show me a nice big smile. Oh, sorry, I was just thinking about something funny. Why would you apologize for that? There's nothing wrong with being happy. I'd much rather see you like this than half asleep. It's early, okay? I'm not used to being awake at this hour. Then why are you? I wanted to eat breakfast with my best buddy Draken. Is a perfect answer, by the way. I'll keep that in mind for next time. It's a bit of a long story, but the short answer is that my important plans involve someone who's far more excitable than I am. Is this your way of inviting me along? Sorry, I didn't mean you, Draken. I'm talking about my roommate Tix. You know, the pixie in your class? Ah, the angry one. Didn't she disappear? You were asking about her before. I haven't seen her in class recently. Yep, that's her. She vanished for a little while, but now she's back. Is she back for good? Maybe. I don't know yet. I think it'll depend on how we go today. I'm going to help Tix with her studies outside of class while she decides whether to stay or not. If she's that wishy-washy, she should just leave. Don't say that. She's just a bit uncertain about her future, that's all. If my input helps her to figure out what she really wants to do, then I'll gladly help out. Even if it means waking up at this time every morning. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Then again, I'd rather make a habit of waking up early than get dragged out of my bed by force. Waking up early once in a while is hard, but if you do it every day, it's no big deal. Well, if you do start coming here at this time every morning, I won't complain. Early to bed early to rise. That's how the predator catches their prey. Am I the predator in this scenario or the prey? A little bit of both, by the sound of it. That'd be right. I wonder if it's too late to convince Tix to wait until this evening instead. You're the one doing her a favor, right? I don't think that'd be a problem. She might not see it that way. Still, I should at least try. I'm not gonna be much help to her in this state anyway. You just need to wake up a little more, that's all. Why don't we go for a lap around the courtyard? That always wakes me up. Jogging? You're right. I jog. Do I look like I jog? Jog? What are you talking about? Oh, right. You can't fly, can you? You only just realized that. You could probably manage levitation. That's about it. Legitimate flying magic is way too exhausting for someone of my level. Oh, I clicked that same thing again. Yeah. Well, that works too. I'll fly around the courtyard while you run behind me. I won't be holding back, so make sure you give it your best. No, like I said, while waiting for Draken's order to be filled, the two of us sit down and talk about whatever comes to mind. It isn't how I plan to wake myself up, but talking to Draken certainly does help. Before I know it, I'm wide awake, ready for the day ahead. Training with Tix might still be a bit much for me in my current state. As far as my first class of the day is concerned, I think I'll somehow manage. We're just gonna go in the forest, or much to Tix chagrin? I don't know that word. I don't think I've ever heard or seen that word before. I once again insist on delaying the inevitable after all. Explain to her I need time to prepare a lesson for her, and that anything I try to teach her now will probably be improvised and sloppy. Tix isn't happy about my assertion, as evidenced by our early start to the morning. She wants to begin as soon as possible. Nevertheless, I'm eventually able to convince her to wait until classes are over for the day, granting myself a hard-earned yet momentarily reprieve. Really though, what am I going to teach her? I have some basic ideas about what she should learn, but I don't know how to actually teach those things to her. Maybe I should ask someone else for their take on the matter. The only person to ask about teaching and magic would be LaShaw. Yeah, that might work. If anyone is going to know about teaching methods suitable for a pixie, it'd be our venerable valedictorian. Alright, it's worth a shot. I'll see if LaShaw has any bright ideas. I turn towards LaShaw, who was sitting a seat and a half away from me, and shuffle closer. Morning, LaShaw. Studying hard or hardly studying? Hardly what? It's a human saying, don't pay it any mind. I never do. I like that face though. What? Ouch, is LaShaw being harsh or just honest? I know that a lot of these things I say and do seem liberace to her, but still, trying not to focus on LaShaw's response, I skip any further small talk and jump straight to the topic I wanted to raise. So LaShaw, being both our grade's valedictorian and an almighty elf, you must surely be an expert on pixies, right? Pixies? Yes, I suppose so. I haven't had many dealings with them personally, but I am rather familiar with them. That's not surprising. If what Tix said about elves being too xenophobic to approach, let alone breed with, it's true, then they probably wouldn't have much to do with each other. And of course, there's also the fact that a pixie would have no interest in a female elf to begin with. That's fine, it doesn't need to be from personal experience. I was just hoping for a bit more information about them in general. I tried reading up about them, but the content was a bit vulgar. Something like that, yeah. Have you read some of those books yourself, LaShaw? Not intently. I was just looking for information. I was most certainly not using the Academy terminals for the purpose of reading such smut. Relax, LaShaw, I get it. I went through the exact same thing. Seriously, I was amazed at how much of it was, well, like you said, smut. Indeed, why those books are available on the Academy terminals, I'll never know. So, you're looking for supplementary information on pixies. I am, yes. What can you teach me? What kind of foolish question is that? Remember who you're talking to, human. I can teach you everything about pixies. Oh, how dependable. I knew LaShaw was the right choice. Alright then, I'll make sure to ask you the next time I have any question Tix won't answer. For the time being, I was wondering about their learning process. If I want to teach something to a pixie, is there a specific way I should go about teaching them? See, now she's gonna be like, this is very abstract and not information. Is found better to practical lessons or purely intellectual ones? Is there a difference in how breeders learn versus how warriors learn? What sort of things should I keep in mind? Right. Breeders and warriors, do you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Of course I do. How could I not? Breeders and warriors, those who give birth and those who fights, correct? Well, yeah, anyone could guess that from just the wording. Yes, breeders and warriors. Well, you see, pixies excel in 2 types of spells. I know, recovery magic and muscle reinforcement magic. Yes, that is correct. Outside of those 2 fields, pixies are notorious inadequate. Even basic combustion magic's too much for most of them. Really? That's news for me. I heard that they had stopped using other types of magic, but I didn't know it was because they're actually bad at it. Also, I watched my roommate Tix use combustion magic and freezing magic too. She must be fairly powerful for a pixie. I'd wager that she's aiming to become a warrior. Apparently, she wants to become both a warrior and a breeder. Oh, that's unusual. Pixies aren't the only ones who divide themselves into distinct roles like that. It's not uncommon, especially for races who are preyed upon. From what I've observed, members of those races tend to choose one role and stick with it. They don't take on both duties, nor do they swap back and forth. Well, Tix did seem pretty intent on showing off to her family members and the other pixies in her village. She'll have a hard road ahead of her. In that case, pixies in particular, I expect that their roles are divided thanks in part to the time limit on their transformation. Time limit? What are you talking about? Their temporary growth, from the size of your hand to that of a fully grown human. If your roommate is a pixie, then surely you must have witnessed this for yourself. No, I get the transformation part. What I'm questioning is the time limit. Tix is often human-sized. I wasn't aware of any time limit associated with their transformation. Again, she must be quite powerful for a pixie. Which makes sense now that I think about it. Most pixies live in fear of predators and only leave their homes to quickly be inseminated. For a pixie to come to an academy like this, where their natural predators are likely to show up, they'd have to be strong, brave, or just plain stupid. You're right, I never thought about it like that. Tix might actually be quite amazing. Is she, though? It doesn't sound that way to me. Huh? What do you mean? LaShaw shrugs her shoulders. If you ask me, your roommate isn't amazing. She's simply indecisive. In a society where you are expected to take one of 2 roles, why pursue both? Why not focus on becoming good at one or the other? I believe the answer here is that she isn't confident she will succeed in either one, so she wants to have a plan to fall back on. That doesn't sound right. Tix is strong. She could definitely be a warrior. Could she? Being strong is not the same as possessing the will to fight. LaShaw's word bring to mind Tix's revulsion towards the hunt. Even though she comes off as aggressive at times, Tix hasn't given me any reason to think that she's violent. If anything, the disgust she showed at the idea of demi-humans fighting one another made me think the opposite. Furthermore, Tix acts defensive at times, and she often tries to sound tough. Where's my phone at? Thinking about that a different way, these could proceed as well. Actions of a weakling trying to buff their will out of a confrontation. You might be right about that. Maybe Tix isn't cut out to be a warrior after all. But what about breeding? That doesn't require any special skill. In fact, Tix herself made a point of deciding that she's quite fertile. Just what kind of questions have you been asking that girl? I didn't ask. She told me all of that on her own, without any prompt whatsoever. Right. In any case, you are correct. Being able to give birth is not something out of the ordinary. However, you would do well to remember that for pixies, simply being able to reproduce is not enough. The children must be healthy, strong, and great in number. If your roommate birthed only one child, or some of her children did not survive, she would become a laughingstock. You make fun of her for losing a child? That's horrible. That's just how it works for pixies. To her kind, she would be considered useless for failing to rear children properly. Wow, that's really harsh. I had no idea they were so cruel. That's how it is. There's no point in complaining about it. So, was that helpful? Did you have any more questions? Alright, Tix's lessons. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I don't think any of that would really help me to teach her. I suppose you're right. Well, think it over during class. If you come up with any specific questions, let me know. See, because it's like, Lashah is trying to act confident and 100% be like, I know everything, but he's asking such an abstract question on how should I teach somebody, which is different person to person. No matter species, it's always going to be different from person to person. Right. The Shah returns her focus to the physical terminal sitting in front of her as our teacher enters the classroom. Unfortunately, question time is now over. Class is about to begin, and I still have no idea how best to teach Tix. For the time being, I guess I'll just try to come up with a generic lesson plan that anyone could follow. We can figure out what works best for Tix through trial and error. For now, what's important is that I decide on the right material. So I would give her a test to see what level I would consider her, and then go from there. Resolving myself thusly, I open my terminal, ignore my teacher, and start jolting down ideas. As soon as lunchtime rolls around, I once again find myself in the library. This time, my goal is a little different. Ooh, hit that button again. I'm gonna keep hitting that. While Tix is still the reason for my visit, the nature of what I'll be researching is a world apart from what I would wound up reading last time. No more pixies born for me. This time around, I'm sticking to purely factual, informative reading materials. I opened the first book in the list of items which matched the search criteria I entered into my terminal. The subject of my research this time is not pixie culture. Instead, I'm reading up on spell creation. What is this garbage? Is this really the first thing people find when they want to research spell creation? Ugh, this is worthless. Even if this is aimed at beginners, it's just quickly losing faith in the first book on the list. I move down to the second item. Soon enough, I move on to third, fourth, fifth, and so on. Within half an hour, I've exhausted the list of books on spell creation for beginners, and I am left feeling strangely disappointed. If these are the kinds of materials from which students are learning, then it's no wonder there are so few people who create new spells. Even if I tell Tix to read through some of these, it won't help her. Not in any meaningful way, at least. Maybe I should write my own book on the subject at some point. Putting that thought aside for a moment, I enter a different search query. Rather than search for materials on spell creation, I look for books about the different elements and how to cast basic well-known spells of varying types. Basically, the kind of thing we'd be doing in class anyway. Screw it, I'll teach Tix about spell creation on my own. But before we get into that, she'll need to learn more about types of magics besides recovery and muscle reinforcement spells. Being able to use combustion and freezing magic is a good start, but what are the odds that her attempt failed due to her own lack of knowledge about how these two types of spells work? Before we try to create anything new, I'm going to have Tix research and practice the basics thoroughly. If she can do that, we'll be whipped up new spells together in no time. She's not going to like that though. You're late. Where have you been all day? I've been looking everywhere for you. Before I even closed the door behind me, Tix has already rushed to my side and started to chew me out. With our last class of the day having finally come to an end, it is now time for Tix and I to get started. Sorry about that. I would have gotten back sooner, but I had to pick up something on the way here. Oh yeah, what's that? Is it something for our training? Rather than answer Tix verbally, I instead place what I am carrying on her desk. Wait, isn't that... Yep, a physical terminal. We could always head to the classroom and use one of the terminals in there or visit the library and use theirs, but I figured this would give us the most freedom. That being said, laying my hands on this wasn't easy. These portable units are apparently in short supply and reserved for students living far from home. I was able to borrow this one after explaining my situation, but I don't know how long we'll be able to hold on to it. Yeah, okay, that's great and all, but why do we need a physical terminal exactly? Because you don't know how to use the spell terminal yet, and you've got some serious studying to do. Studying? What are you talking about? I thought you were going to be teaching me. I will be, but before that you have some catching up to do. Tix, we've both been trying to create spells for a long time, and yet I am a human from a family of non-mage. Succeeded, whereas you, a pixie, who has used magic since birth, failed. You know why that is? Because you're better at it? Well, yes, there is that possibility. Plus, there's the fact that I can see Aether, which makes deconstructing and analyzing spells much easier. See, is that something special to him? And, like, not a lot of people can actually do that. But I didn't really get a chance to do that until I came to the academy, so it's probably not a factor. What's more likely to be relevant is the fact that I wasn't taught about magic by others. Much of what I know is the result of my own research and experimentation. In a way, I succeeded through sheer obsession and force. I'm sure there are a number of reasons why I succeeded where you failed, but above all else, I believe it's due to my access to information. You were taught by other pixies, right? Meaning you focused primarily on just two fields of magic. You were probably even limited to learning specific spells, which were already considered useful by your peers. Are those assumptions of mine correct? You're not wrong. I know a little bit about other types of magic, but pretty much everything I know was taught to me by my mother. And that is why you failed. It may sound arrogant of me to say this, but I believe the reason why I excel at creating new spells is because I wasn't taught about magic. I was forced to search for information on my own and to learn what did or didn't work through trial and error. It was a long and arduous process. Certainly much longer than it must have taken you, but because of that I learned spells from the ground up. Instead of emulating others, I learned how magic actually works. I didn't mean to be rude, but how does that help me exactly? It's a little late for me to learn everything from scratch. True, my process won't work for you. You can't learn all of the same ways that I did. But you can do the opposite. Expand your knowledge beyond recovery and muscle reinforcement, magic, learn about the difference between them, and how they all function. Work backwards. Instead of building new spells from scratch, take existing spells and reverse engineer them. Will that really work? I think it will. At the very least, it's worth a shot. And to that end, I turn on the physical terminal sitting on Tix's desk. Then I search the Academy's library and pick out a few books for Tix to start with. You're gonna start all over again, right from the basics of the basics. Combustion magic, freezing magic, hell, even recovery and muscle reinforcement magic. You're going to study it all as if you were learning about magic for the first time. Ugh, that sounds boring. Well, will that really help? I already tried reading up on different kinds of magic when I first came here, and I still don't make any progress. Oh, do you think that leafing through one or two books would make you an expert? Don't be naive. If it were that easy, everyone would do it. You need to hit the books day and night. Devote yourself completely to your studies. If you can do that, you'll make a breakthrough for sure. Study day and night. Yeah, right, just don't watch. You just don't want to teach me yourself. I will teach you, but not until after you put in the effort yourself. My role is to teach you about spell creation. The background knowledge required for my lessons to make sense is something you need to gather for yourself. For some reason, like Tix, who was taught by her parent rather than an institution, these concepts probably seem relatively foreign. The notion of building up knowledge on your own makes a lot more sense when you have easy access to study materials. After all, and from the sound of it, Tix grew up with no such luxury. Even so, if she wants to break through her current impasse, then Tix is going to need to step outside of her comfort zone. Tix can't rely on her mother here. If she's going to have any hope of pursuing her interest, she'll need to start making changes to the way she approaches her education. I realize that it may not be the quickest, easiest path, or even the best one, nevertheless, as Tix's teacher, it is the path I have chosen for her. I know it sounds like hard work, and it is, but I wouldn't suggest this course of action if I didn't think it was the best way for us to proceed. Besides, it's not like I'm going to go anywhere. Even when you're studying on your own, I'll still be here in case you need me. Fine, I guess I'll give it a try. Good, now enough talk, it's time to get started. Open the first book on the list and start reading. This is so lame. This had better pay off big time. Mouth closed, book open. This is your first warning, young lady. Yeah, whatever you say, teacher. Ooh, I'm tempted to end the episode here. 30-minute mark. I think I will end the episode here. Some other stuff I want to do today. Particularly, I feel like playing some Elden Ring. So I'm going to end this episode here. Catch you all in the next episode, and thanks for watching.